Good afternoon. You're watching World Without Rule of Law. So I want to talk about the state of Virginia. The state of Virginia recently went through some changes in the Senate and the House of Representatives. We had a Democratic governor, and now just recently, as of a couple weeks ago, the House and the Senate are both controlled by the Democrats as well. Last year there was some legislation introduced to really pretty significantly impact the Second Amendment rights in the state of Virginia. And so, because the House and Senate were controlled by the Republicans, that legislation was narrowly defeated. Now, the leftists that are in control now are promising to reintroduce that legislation in this upcoming term. And I believe that's going to be significantly impacting to the state of Connecticut, because I don't see any way that that's going to be able to be stopped. Now, there are several things. The Second Amendment is part of it for sure, because it's always been a pretty Second Amendment friendly state, and the changes that they are proposing are going to really put it on the other end of the spectrum. My wife and I came from Connecticut, and Connecticut is very liberal, and the gun laws are very restrictive. And what they want to do to Virginia is going to make Connecticut look conservative. So, they want to put us in line with California and New York, which is ridiculous, but that's what they're proposing. Along with that, they want to allow late-term abortions, which in my opinion is even a bigger issue. And they want to do the red flag laws, and that's another thing they tried to introduce last year that didn't pass, but I believe this year will. It saddens me to think of these issues and these impacts on our freedom, and really the helplessness that we have to change them. I mean, I'm one person with one vote, and I got out and I voted, and our county, as did a lot of counties down here, swept red. It was conservative, Republican, and even though if I like to affiliate with the term Republican, because I think there's some issues there too, but I'll just say conservative. From a Christian conservative viewpoint, we really prevailed in this county and in counties around here. And so it's really those three pockets of blue: northern Virginia, down by the beach, and out in the west, I believe, Charlotte area. And so those areas, that's where the population is. And so they carried the election. But when you look at the state of Virginia on a map, it's predominantly red with these three pockets of blue. And, that's just the way it is, and I don't know if there's anything we can do about that, but they're talking about reducing the electoral college for the presidential races. That is something, the agenda of the left has been pushing for a while. And if successful, we're going to see what happened here happen throughout the entire country. And I think at that point, it's true, like places like California and New York are going to determine the president every single time. And that's not really a fair representation of, how the nation feels or thinks. And so that's impacting to me as well. It's important to me as well. I look at, the issue of abortion is huge, right? So for me, that's a big issue. Now, if they want to do late-term abortions, I don't think that's right. I also don't think the infringement on the Second Amendment is right, and don't get me wrong, I am a complete supporter of the Second Amendment. But we have people, Christians even, who will live and die at their front door to protect the Second Amendment. That whole, they'll get it when they pry it from my dead cold fingers type of a mindset. And there may be a time when we may have to resort to drastic measures to protect these rights. And I don't think we're there yet, and I'm not advocating for that in any way. My first and strongest instinct would be to seek peaceful resolution to all these issues. But we have people that are willing to die at their front door to protect their Second Amendment rights. And they purport themselves to be Christian, yet they won't take 5 minutes to sit at a computer and write their congressman about the abortion issue. So I think conservatism in general is often viewed from that Second Amendment lens and nothing else, whereas there's much more to it than that. Now, I also think that a lot of these other freedoms that we can enjoy are protected by the freedoms that we have in the Second Amendment. And I think that if the Second Amendment falls, then a lot of these other ones will go with it. But a lot of them are going, and we're not even trying to protect them. And so that's concerning to me as well. Now, my wife and I, we moved here from Connecticut. We put everything we had into this place. We bought a house that needed a lot of work. We completely renovated it, and we absolutely love it. We absolutely love it here. And we love this home and this property. And we could easily be happier the rest of our lives. But as we see this political climate shift, it's very concerning. And so as a result of that, we really only have two choices. Stay and do what we can to fight it, which, that's limited. Or flee, or go somewhere else. Go to a different part of the country. And so we're considering each of those options very carefully. And they're not easy options. That's not an easy choice to make. In some respects it could be easy, but because of the situation we're in, as I said, we put everything we had into this place. And monies that we probably could not recoup. Because we made certain changes to this house that were specific to our needs, but that do not necessarily reflect themselves well on the housing market. For instance, we had an old stairwell that went into the basement. It was very steep. It was like a ship's ladder. And when it came out at the bottom, it was not even a foot from the wall. So it was really, basically, it was unusable. And we had hardly any closet space up here, so we closed that off and we put a decent sized walk-in closet in the master bedroom. And so now the access to the basement is around the outside. We moved the washer and dryer up here. I do go down there occasionally, as does my wife. She has a freezer down there with some food. But it's not a daily thing, and losing that access to up here, especially as we get older, those stairs are harder and harder to move up and down on. You certainly couldn't carry a basket of laundry down, and you don't have any room to step off the stairs at the bottom. So we decided to move the laundry up here and close that off, and now our only access is outside. It suits our lifestyle fine. We've never ever had a problem with it, but putting the house on the market like that, that's a drawback. We have 2 bedrooms, that's a drawback. We have 1 bathroom, that's also a drawback. Again, for us, it's okay, it works. We put the washer and dryer in the 2nd bedroom, and we put a lot of our resources into building a beautiful kitchen. We went upper end on the cabinets with 3/4 plywood boxes and nice maple. I mean, they're top-notch cabinets. Soft closed drawers and doors. We went upper end on the appliances, the countertops, tile backsplash. We spent more money than we had to in the kitchen. but we did that to suit our lifestyle. Now, kitchens are one of those things where you actually can recoup a lot of that money in a resale. That's one of those items that people look for, so we probably did okay there. We chose to put a closed cell insulation in the walls to reduce our heating and cooling bills and increase the efficiency of the home. That was more than twice as much as what it cost me to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, purchase the insulation and do it myself, a standard, fiberglass insulation. But we made that choice based on energy efficiency. Now that's not something that's really going to show back in resale if we put it on the market. To some people it will, but all the way along, we opened the whole floor plan up. We lifted the ceiling, we exposed the beams. I mean, we really did a lot. I did all new plumbing and wiring, which is money we'll never get back because people can't see that when they come to look at a house. You could tell them that, but in the vision of things, it doesn't really show as value to a buyer, to some buyers. We upgraded the electrical service. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. So, because mainly the house is only 2 bedrooms and 1 bath, it limits what we can get for the house. And what we can get for it is probably not going to be what we purchased and put into it. And so that's going to deter us. And I won't say it'll completely stop us, but it has to be evaluated, it has to be looked at if we're thinking of moving out of state, which we are. And how do we end up on the other end? And where do we go? Like, we're looking at Missouri, for instance, which is in line, really, Missouri, abortions are illegal after 8 weeks. And even up to 8 weeks, they're only allowed in, if I understand it correctly, in cases of rape or incest, which doesn't make it right, but I mean, it's some of the most prohibitive abortion legislation in the country. And so that appeals to us. There's also no building codes. Property taxes are cheap. Land is relatively cheap. And so it looks like a good place. Now, Virginia looked like a good place when we moved here. Not as good really as Missouri. We kind of half-heartedly glanced at Missouri when we moved here, but as I did a lot of different areas, but just discounted it because of the distance away from family and friends, and it was just too far. But at this point, it's clear. I mean, so Michael Bloomberg basically purchased Virginia in the elections and dumped millions of dollars into the elections and purchased it away. And I think, their target is the East Coast, right? So they've already got a good jump on most of it, and I don't believe they're going to stop. And then, places like Texas are on the fence, which historically has been deep crimson red, but now is more purple and changing every day. And not too far behind that will be Oklahoma, Tennessee, Kentucky. They'll work their way up. Now, will they get to Missouri eventually? Yes. I believe, unfortunately, that this is a sweeping change that's going to take hold in this nation. As the older generations die off, those are the ones with the hardworking, conservative values, and as opposed to like an entitlement mindset, which we're seeing, and not in all. And this is, not meant to be prejudicial or stereotypical, because of course it's just a generality. But I think if you look at it, it holds true that a lot of that comes in the younger generation. And so I think we're going to see that as time goes on, we're going to see that leftist control broaden, and that concerns me. At the same time, what can I do about it, right? I'm one man with one vote, and I exercise it every chance I get. And then in the end, when you have multi-millionaire leftist elitists pumping millions of dollars into a state they don't even live in or have any affiliation with, to purchase the House of Representatives and the Senate. It's very disheartening. And then, as I said, with the elimination of the, if they're successful to eliminate the Electoral College, we'll have that nationwide, and that's very concerning. Because at that point, places like New York, California will control every presidential election going forward. And so all these things are concerning. And so going back to those two choices, we stay and we make the best of it and do the best we can, or we move and try to lengthen that amount of time that we have before that catches up to us, and hope that we can, ride out a good majority of the rest of our lives. And it's a place where there's no building code. I mean, there's a lot of advantages to out there. But because of our situation here and what we have into this house, that may not be an option. And so we're kind of looking at that. We had a realtor come this morning and evaluate the house. And once she crunches the numbers and get back to us, we'll kind of know like what direction we're going in. But we want to make sure we know what all our options are. As far as staying, I mean, I believe to a large degree the fight is over. I don't see it turning back around in Virginia, and I don't see it turning back around anywhere that they convert to liberal left agenda takes over in these states. But in Virginia, the legislation that they're proposing, as I said, it's going to make Connecticut look like a conservative state. It's more in line with California and New York, so it's really, really going to be crazy. But, a lot of that is speculative because people say, they jump to that extreme. Well, will they be successful, or will they even try to carry out all those initiatives? Maybe in time, but initially, it might take time. And so to deter that, for instance, we've seen in the last 2 weeks several counties in Virginia around here, Appomattox County, Carroll County, Patrick County, Franklin County, they all voted to be sanctuary counties, Second Amendment sanctuary counties. And basically what they're saying is we are not going to recognize these unconstitutional gun laws. So that's encouraging in a way, but when it comes down to the meat and bones of it, what does it really do for us? Well, okay, so being here on the property, if I were to have guns, let's just say, and there was, God forbid, a home invasion or anything happens, around, how does the sheriff view that? So being a Second Amendment sanctuary county, then somebody hears gunshots out in the back and shooting at something or whatever, it may not necessarily be a problem for the sheriff. But as far as concealed carry and all that, if they limit that to, they're saying 10 rounds or more, so that means even Connecticut, you could have a 10 round capacity in a handgun. But the way I read that, 10 rounds or more means you gotta have 9 or less. And so, I know if you have some handguns, 1911s, and some of the smaller frame guns, they carry, the 1911 is a full frame gun, but it only carries 8 rounds, the 45. And then some of the smaller capacity, like the LC9s or whatever, they may carry less than 10, but most handguns that we had in Connecticut were limited to 10 rounds, and they had 10 round magazines. Those would be illegal now here if this legislation was to pass. So while the sheriff in this county might overlook it, if you're carrying such a weapon and you're pulled over on any of the numerous roads in the county that are state patrolled, then you're coming under the scrutiny of the state police. So then you may not have those protections there, so it still limits your rights greatly. Also, they're talking about confiscation. They're talking about, if you have these guns, you got to turn them in. If you don't, you'll have to a certain date, July 1st or whatever it is, to comply. If you don't, then you're a felon. Now, is the county becoming a Second Amendment sanctuary county going to protect us from that? I don't believe it is, because that's going to be implemented on a state level. And if they issue the sheriff's department the orders to confiscate, and they, let's say they uphold that sanctuary status and they flat out, refuse to do it, and they say, no, we're not going to involve ourselves in confiscations, then what's to stop the governor or whoever from ordering the state police to do it, or if need be, the National Guard? So I don't know how much teeth that sanctuary county, Second Amendment sanctuary county status has. Our county is having a meeting upcoming to vote on it for this county as well, and I know numerous counties have done it. So I certainly, ideologically, it's a good place to start. I'm on board with it, and I'm going to be there to cast my vote. And actually the way it works, I don't think the citizenry votes. I think we show up, and if we have the numbers and it supports, we may be able to sway the town administrators. The sheriff's department, I believe, is already on board with it, but I believe he needs the town administration to be on board with it as well. And so let's just say we're successful in doing that, then they can vote, and if they vote, in most cases it was unanimous that they voted to accept that status. So if they do that, it's certainly a step in the right direction. It's certainly, showing where the constituency stands as far as what it actually does to protect us against the stripping of these rights through legislation. I don't know that it does. I don't know that it really has any teeth. But I guess the key is there, I really don't know, because I don't know how it works, and I hope to find out, because I have a lot of questions that I'm going to ask at this meeting, and hopefully some light will be shed on it. But one way or another, the whole nation is going in this direction, and it's not good. We're seeing rights stripped away. We're seeing rights that are meant to be inalienable, and we're being alienated from them. So it's certainly unconstitutional. And it's very concerning. Now, I watched a video from Virginia Prepper, and he lives in Virginia, obviously, and I'm going to link it in the description here, because he's been around here a lot longer than I have, and I believe he's got a better handle on a lot of these things, and the makeup of the state and how it votes and all that. So a lot of it seems pretty clear to me, but then maybe some of it isn't, or maybe I'm misinterpreting some of it. So I would just encourage you to go watch him, because he's got a deeper, I think, understanding of the state. He's been here a lot longer. But he's also talking about moving, and incidentally he mentioned Missouri as well. Moving to Missouri, while it could buy us years, is only, I believe, a temporary fix. Now, nobody knows that for sure, because when we look at everything that could happen in the country and what the breakdown of these freedoms means, and as lines are redrawn and lines in the sand are made, there may come a time where those lines become physical. And so if that happens, Missouri and a lot of the redoubt states, Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and I believe down into Missouri, and even Arkansas to a certain degree, may be like the last bastion of freedom, so to speak. I think it really kind of, ideologically, it already is, but it could become physically as well. And I can't, I'm not a prophet, I can't predict that. But then to a certain degree, all you have to do is be aware and kind of look at things and see that maybe it's not that far-fetched. Again, I really hope it doesn't come to that. And for those of us, 55 or older, it's just a matter of getting through the amount of time we have left. The real scary part is when we think about what it means for our children and our grandchildren. And I think that, it's not good. It's not good at all. But also, there's a group which Virginia Prepper mentions in his video, and if you take the time to watch that, there's some good information about it, but it's Virginia Citizens Defense League, and they're a grassroots group, and unlike the NRA, they don't have paid, they don't have people making big money. Like, they're all volunteer. It's all citizenry based, volunteer based, which I think is important. I stopped supporting the NRA a while back. I think to a certain degree they have their own interests, and some of them might align with my interests, but then again, to a certain degree, some of them might not. And so it's worth looking at. That's all I'm going to say, because I just started looking into it myself, and I'm following it, and I'm considering subscribing. It's, I believe, $25 a month for membership to this group. But go out and check it out, and just it's Virginia Citizens Defense League. If you live in Virginia and you're interested in these things, as you should be, then it's worth taking a look at. But they are calling for, and they are actually scheduling on the opening day of the new legislative body, which is January 20th, 2020, they are scheduling a rally, pro Second Amendment rally in Richmond at the General Assembly building. Now, it's concerning to me because a lot of the proponents of that are calling for those supporting the Second Amendment to come fully armed and protest. And so to me, while it's well within our right, I think, I don't know if I support that part of it. And this is just me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. This is just me personally. I think that posturing in such a way could lead to a volatility that, once tipped, cannot be untipped. And so I would hate to see anything happen there. I would love to go to that rally, and I am actually planning to go. And I probably will exercise my Second Amendment right to carry a firearm, as I do most times when I leave the house. And this is just for me personally. I'm not casting any aspersions or any judgments on anybody that does it differently. I always choose to exercise my Second Amendment right in a concealed carry posture. Just because, for the simple reason that I don't believe it's anybody else's business how I carry, what I carry, why, when I carry, all those things. And it's for my personal protection and protection of possibly innocent people, my wife, whoever, but I just think that there is a provocation to open carry. And again, this is only my opinion. I mean, I don't look down on anyone who does open carry. I don't necessarily even think it's wrong for them, but it's wrong for me, because that's just a decision that I make for myself. And so to concealed carry is one thing, but to open carry, and they're calling for people to bring rifles and everything, it just has the potential to ramp it up to a posture that I won't say I don't think, I know for a fact that I don't want to go there. Now again, going forward in the future, certain things may become inevitable. Certainly hope not, and I'm not advocating for that, but each individual, that will be a time and choice of their choosing how they want to get involved in that. And I think on day one, on the opening of the new legislature, I think that that is not the time or the place to ramp to that posture. I believe that the statement of support and solidarity in the enjoyment of the Second Amendment freedom can be made without open carrying, certainly without carrying rifles. Now, again, there will be many good, honest, hardworking people there that will be open carrying, and they will be carrying rifles. And again, I'm not saying that they're doing anything wrong. I don't know that they are. I just think that it's a little bit, it's just not the right place and the right time for that posture. If the new legislature is taking the floor, taking their seats, that transfer of office on that day, that's the opening day of the new legislature, certainly that statement needs to be made that we, the citizenry, feel this way. And I would love to flood that meeting with millions of people. But I think that the statement is just as valid without rifles. Again, that's my opinion. And I'll probably take some heat over that because I know there's a lot of people, Virginia proper for one, who's someone who I respect and whose opinions and thoughts on this whole thing I value. And so I won't even go as far as to say I think he's wrong for doing what his convictions tell him to do or what he believes is right. But I believe that we won't really know that, but there can always be a time to ramp up. Let's just say it's easier to ramp up than to ramp down. So I don't want to, if we're on a sliding scale, I don't want to start here. Maybe going there, but I don't want to start there. And so that's just my opinion. But if you can make it, if you live in Virginia, you can make it, I think that it's important that you do that. If you believe in the Second Amendment right. I also think that anybody that is a Christian or has Christian values should sit down at their computer and write their new congressman and their new senator about how they feel about abortion, or what they feel, what their opinions are about the red flag laws, what their opinions are about sanctuary cities. A lot of this is going to be falling on deaf ears because Michael Bloomberg purchased the state of Virginia for the left. And so those people whose campaigns he contributed millions to are going to now have to repay that debt somehow. And the way that they will repay that will be through the promotion of leftist legislation. And that's just common sense. I mean, they don't get millions for nothing, right? So that whole thing, as Virginia Prepper points out, and I agree 100%, that should be illegal for people with no interest in this state. They don't own property or work in this state. They don't have a horse in the race, so to speak, in this state. They shouldn't be allowed to come and influence our elections by pumping millions of dollars into these campaigns. Obviously, it's legal. They're doing it. I don't believe it should be legal, but it is legal. So there we are. This doesn't matter what we think or what I believe. It matters what is. And if it is legal, which I believe it is because he's openly done it, then there's very little we can do about it, but maybe there could be reform going forward. Again, I do think that Virginia is lost. I don't think it's ever going to come back. I think that the power of the leftist machine is sweeping, and its power based on, unlimited financial resource. And so, based on that, that's a hard thing to overcome. All right, I'm sorry for the rather abrupt ending, but my camera failed and I was just about done anyway. So, I just would encourage you, if you are a Virginia resident, to consider attending that rally in Richmond on January 20th, 2020. It starts at 8 a.m. in the General Assembly building. Also, check out the Virginia Citizens Defense League and consider supporting that as well. Go over and check out Virginia Prepper. I'm going to leave a link in the description to his channel, and I'm going to leave a link to the Virginia Citizens Defense League as well. Thank you all for watching this segment of An Unscripted Moment. God bless you.